Hi everyone. Hi. I'm Danny, and this is not the first time in Fab Cafe I'm speaking about such a topic, but this is the first time I use English because I really suffer right now because I have 3 languages in my head. Okay. Today I want to introduce you a kind of for a first speaker, I will introduce you a very brief background from the makers movement in Taiwan, and also what we are thinking about in Xinchuan, which will be opening in November. I don't know when actually. Okay. Well, I have to introduce myself first, and in fact, I was studying. My background is very multi-discipline because I was studying in international business, which is management department in my university, and also I have 4-year works in designing user interface, which is very tiny. Well, there's a small machine called a stock machine in Taiwan, very famous because there's a pixel. I started designing user interface by pixel by pixel, and this is a very interesting experience. And after 4 years work, I found myself I really need to get more knowledge in design. So I went to design graduate school, and there I studied human factors. And at that time, I firstly know term or a domain called interaction design, and that really fascinated me. So I started to create my own user interface, a very new kind of a sensor embedded something, and which is really good for me. And after that, I go to Japan to study in design science, and after that I spent a half year in Japan with Fujitsu, GK Tech, and Dentsu. This is really big brand makers in Japan, and also continuing my research in postdoc in Nifty and Quanta Research Institute. And now I become a manager of bricolage Fab Lab in Xinchuan Foundation. Okay, but after these years, after maybe 14 years, we can see there's a lot of new product invented. For example, at that time, the 1998, there's a new iMac, and after that, there will be Google and also iPod, Nokia V2, which is really good in shape and also in human factor, in really good user interface. And after that, which we called a diagram, a kind of after iPhone, everything changes. And at that time, I was studying in how to use mouse. And one night after, no one talks about mouse anymore. You know, the mouse for PC usage, right? So at that time, I firstly encountered a kind of technology impact at that time. And from now, you hardly, well, we have a big event today, right? In tonight, there's announced another big technology improvement. And also I was thinking about, because my research is really focused on the pure experience, because I'm not here to teach you anything about the concept, which is a very pure experience written in Japanese, but I'm not here for that. But in fact, it's a real incentive for my intention is, if we put any actions to an object, which come back to us is not actually an action, which is a kind of a sensation, and give us a real and rich experience after all. So that's called the concept. In Chinese will be the 感性. Okay, and 感性 is the most pure experience after all in aesthetics way. So I also found there's several future in studies. For example, in my background is Engelberg in 1968, who invented first mouse and first how to use the camera to presentation, and also Ellen Kay, who invented Dyna books for children, and Ivan Sutherland used light pen to draw on the computer screen. So which three, or also the Star Trek in 1984, and that's really like an iPod and multi-touch, right? For that's such a future is really in not only in studies in human-computer interactions, but also in design or kind of science fictions. They're invented and excited, and we are now using about that future from the people who invented it. So I'm thinking about, well, there's also a very famous very famous novelist called William Gibson. So that's my work in how to use a sensor to help people to order a cup of coffee, which is very nonsense because I use the cup to interact. Well, I have no cup. Okay, because I trying to figure out five different tangible actions which can help people to order a cup of coffee. For example, you can use your tag to the computer, that the computer knows what kind of coffee do you like, and also how to push the top of the cup so they can feel the pressure. And which is my favorite part is, if you want quantity of your drink, you can use a finger inside of the cup, so you don't need a big cup, XL or L size. Just figure out what is the position of that. So that where the cup comes from my research, and the funding is really interesting because, well, we usually not use such tangible actions in a certain interaction. But however, there's the very interesting part. But for example, there's more accuracy, because if you can guess what I'm doing right now, which is not can have a very good satisfaction for us. Why? Because you have already know about that. For example, in such a cup, you have already know how to use it. But if I said, well, there's a sensor inside. If you put tap in the side of the cup, you can know what's the quantity of the cup, of the drink you want. So that will become very high accuracy and very high satisfaction for these people who have to guess what I'm doing in one object. So that turns me out to thinking about how to think about not only the effective of use, but also you have to enjoy the use, the process of use. So this is the first time I'm really excited about the future, because we only can guess with that. We cannot pretend we already know about that. So I keep continuing thinking about that. So I found myself there's the iceberg. There's something we already know about that. This is a multi-sensor device. This is AR, context awareness, social network usability. It's such a technology-driven movement right now. But there are also a lot of things we don't know. For example, our human perceptions. We don't know how we perceive our emotions and give back our emotion to an object, not human, but the object. How we can use our concept or our emotions to enhance the object and move the right position to us. So that's really interesting to me. It's a really hidden part. It's an implicit interactions after all. So I'm thinking about Well, we're now talking about the future, but what is the implicit force about the future? So this is my first question about this topic, because is that economy is really something that invented and we accelerate the process of our by our doing, or an open source technology or community or any further things is important force. I found there's a very simple neo-dogma right now, which is a paradigm shift in future of design, which calls, for example, I stay in big company for years, so I know how they do about the design works. First of all, you have stake, especially in Taiwan, we're audience-centric company, we're audience-centric industry. So most of us, we have stake, and you go downstairs from design, planning for manufacturing, and also you need a lot of people stay in one meeting room. So everybody have to sign off the documents so you can have an approval meeting. So, and next to the mass manufacturing and logistic and to channel, so that the spec and user is really a huge gap from that. So everybody at that time talks about marketing research, about marketing insight, but after all, you'll find your marketing insight is really not interesting at all, because you are far from the users himself or herself. And that's really research center, because each decision is a gamble. Each decision is not from your knowledge, it's from your resource placement. Okay, we say about that. But right now, because we have the digital and personal fabrication, and also have digital material that can help us to do a very fine prototypes right here, and also desktop manufacturing, rapid prototyping, and we can after that to anchor about the social proposition. And also we have a kind of trend called Internet of almost anything. So it turns out it's a kind of another thing is we are keep looping ourselves to keep our personal, the spec is not from the market, it's from our personal interest, it's from our motivation. And the single user is fine. We're not speaking about 10,000 people market. We're speaking about one single person market. But how you do that? You can use fabrication tools to make it. And also that is not important part. The most important part is you can start your own design or your own fabrication from your knowledge, which is very important, because I read a lot of books from the Kobayashi-san, because I read from the Ganner, or I read a lot of things because I'm just designer. I don't know anything. Maybe 7 years ago, I don't know anything about electronics. I don't know anything about the fabrication. But right now, because I'm studying in a kind of the personal fabrication, so I can start doing a kind of project like waiter car. Okay. But right now, we're going to the next stage. This is a known fact. We are facing a kind of a future. But in next, we are thinking about how to fabricate for future parametric interactions, because one thing you have designed or fabricated is you don't need any research after all, because you have to show to other people, well, how do you think about that? He will tell you, well, I'm thinking about this is not a good design. Why? Because you're already a pragmatic process in that time, because at that time you will know about how your design is work or not. You don't need very complex design research process. You have already now right way, right time, because you already have your own prototype. Okay, so I think about the knowledge base is not important after all, because you have to link a multi-dimensional or multi-discipline knowledge to become an ecosystem by your own. It's a personal system. So for example, I like XMOs. Okay. For example, this stair rover, which is designed from an RCA student. Of course, it's Taiwanese students, and it's designed a 8-wheel, the skateboarder, to help people to get down to the rock stairs, and very smooth. It's really sexy with that, but it's faced a lot of troubles in manufacturing because no one will help him to fabricate. Only I know it's about 500 pieces for that quantity. It is very complex and it need a safety control, and also a lot of protocols, like EU protocols you have to pass with that, and that's really tough, but eventually he succeeded. So now I know how much he raised in Taiwan dollars. I don't know, 10,000 million? I don't know, 10,000 million, I guess. It's really a huge project right now. So that's an example for personal fabrication because he did it for 3, maybe 2.5 years. And also Sentry. Sentry is another project in Kickstarter, which is a smart home device. It actually is a gateway to monitor all of your smart gadgets in your home. So that's a gateway with that. And also have a very good performance in Kickstarters. And now they also facing a kind of the same problem because we have no enough knowledge or not enough ecosystem to help them to make this dream come true. So they are still struggling right now. And also Big Swole, the first cat face recognition feeder. Okay, so that's also another example because it's a really single person who want his cat to have a feeder which can recognize the cat's face and give them some food for that. So how they can use the normal human face recognition and turns into cat's face recognizer. So that's another project. And also they're struggling because they have no one help them to do such the manufacturing works. So we're thinking about how to do that. So there's a second question I want to ask everybody and myself is how do makers survive? Because before that time, I would study in human interactions, human-computer interaction, and I started to design my prototype. And I really want this kind of prototype to become a true product. But I have no idea how to do that. But at the same time, in Taiwan, we have such a very good industrial environment because we have almost 80% small and middle business in any kind of manufacturing area, from the automatics to robotics. We have a lot of makers right now. And we also have a world famous ODM company with TSMC, Foxconn, Quanta. It's really a lot of companies right now. And also there's a own brand company, HTC, Asus, Giant, that. But however, our ODM company, or almost our ecosystem, is focusing on the government hardware. What is the government? Ain't no one knows. What's that? Government. Okay, maybe someone knows about it, but okay. Government, which goes to Google, Apple, Facebook, Microsoft, and Amazon. We only serve 5 different customers. Why? Because they support our ecosystem. Because that 80% of small and middle business is from the ecosystem, from the supply chain of ODM company. So they are facing about the mass manufacturing because the Facebook can buy tons of servers, and Google has a lot of hardware to do, so they are strongly binding to each other. But you can see there's a orange line right now. What is this? What if we see the three projects I just mentioned? How if they have only 5% of company willing to keep up, to start their business as an indie brand, which is a very personal brand company, to design very personal product. And there's two force right now, because in Taiwan we have Kickstarter or Hardware Track to help people to do that. And also we also have a maker-driven forces. It's a 3D printer in Taiwan. It's really cheap. Okay, you can buy very cheap 3D printers right here, and also very cheap stamp board here. And we also have a Fab Lab networks in Taiwan. So there's a lot of forces to help us to do that. But in fact, the 5% is a really huge number. 5% of maker economy will change all of the world. So, what if we use, this is also my favorite researcher. Anyone knows Henry Petrosky? Okay, who sensei knows about? Anyone? No. He's really famous because he wrote a book called Useful Things. Because at the fork, why the fork have 4 legs? Why? Okay, because at the ancient era, ancient people who had first used fire to cook food, so they have a very hot meat at that time, and they don't know how to deal with that meat, so they use their hands to do that, and well, it's really hot, you cannot touch it. So they design a kind of a head-shaped wood fork at that time. I believe they don't know anything about the fork, the terms of fork. So they use a kind of a shape to eliminate a kind of a pen shape to do the same work. So you'll find after the thousands of years, it become very normal product right now. But trying to think about that. For example, the cat face recognize feeder to become a very super normal. Everybody have a cat feeder, which you can recognize your cat. Super normal. Everyone have one. At that time, what changes? Everything changes. Okay, because we need that. We need all the features to connect it together, because we need these things to become the very contextual fabrication. Because if we can change our product, we can change how they fabricate, and we can go back to the system itself. So my second question and answers, because what if in Taiwan industry, if we can have a 75 maker here, I don't know what eventually happens, but sometimes we're dreaming about the future. Sometimes, right? So this is my dream, because it's a really huge numbers. If we have 75% of makers who can fabrication for future, who can fabricate their own interest, their personal interest, and also they have a group of people who will become his fans or her fans, and they have the community-based fabrication, fabricated tools. What it happens is really change a lot. So, at the first speaker, I just introduced myself, and also I just introduced, there's several interesting Taiwanese design and fabrication right now, and we really want to help them, but I need everybody to join because I think the topic is really correct. It's not connecting future. It's not the continuous. We have already connected because we are from our the daily basic lifestyle. We have already connected. So right now we have to think about how to become the IoT, all the fancy wearable, whatever, to become the super normal, become very, very simple, which I think is a connect future. Okay, thank you.